Watch this video for Monday, June 13th. Let's glance at the SPY here. Gap down, sold off, hit the 20-day and bounced a little bit. If you look at the end of the day here, a little bit of a bounce, but it was pretty weak most of the day. Pretty good volume too on the sell-off, so that's something to keep in mind. Maybe we've topped out in the short term here. If you go to 60-minute candles, which I think is a great view for kind of medium-term support, I do like the support here at the 209 area. So if we do have some weakness on Monday morning, keep an eye on that. If SPY gets down to 209, you might want to watch for a market bounce. So that's one little level to watch. Let's go into the watch list for Monday. Again, keep in mind I'm a day trader. I'm just looking to make some money with this list on Monday, and I'm in cash every night. So none of these, in other words, are long-term charts. Okay. VHC had this spike back here, another spike, and then kind of broke above it, but then gave some of it back, a couple topping tails, a very narrow range on Friday. Switching to 15-minute candles. It never broke the early high on Friday, so I mean, I like this maybe up over 510 for a potential long. Again, I never fight the market, so all this depends on, making sure that I'm not fighting the SPY at the time one of these maybe gets to a point that I'm looking for. EYES had the big pop on Thursday, quiet inside day on Friday, although kind of decent volume, and I don't generally like to see a pop like this give back most of the gains the next day, but sometimes you get a third day move higher, so this definitely goes on bounce watch for Monday. BLPH, kind of the same deal, a really nice 2-day move, but gave a lot of it back, and then a red day. This one is really going to need to bounce on Monday, or I'll become much less interested in it, but that's a huge 2-day move there, or maybe you could say a day and a half, because it gave back a lot of it on Thursday, and then down again on Friday. A much lower volume, though. So if this thing can trade in a narrow range for a while on Monday morning and then break the high of the day, having it on a chart, you might be able to grab that high of day break with a fairly tight stop and catch the beginning of a move. All right, and I'll show you an example of that in a little bit here on a call I made that we actually traded on Friday in the chat room. But let's SP. That's supposed to be SPHS, I believe. I wrote it down in my notes wrong. You need to fix that. Okay, SPHS had the gap up on good news on Friday morning, but just sold off all day. You know what? A lot of times, the sellers get a hold of it on an intraday basis, and the next day it bounces. So with that in mind, I mean, really big volume, 31 million shares. Definitely want to watch that one on Monday. PAY gapped down just below February support. I guess this would have been Wednesday. Had a really nice intraday move, and then in 2 days we're right back down to lows. Let me glance at this on the weekly. Yeah, maybe this is coming. Maybe this is headed down to test these lows of in the low 15s here. But you've got 2 pretty good days of selling after the bounce, and sometimes when you get a gap down and then it runs all day. And this had a really big move. If you look at it from under 20 to over 22 at one point on an intraday basis. Sellers, shorts are going to be a little bit nervous on any kind of bounce because this was a pretty big move. So 2 days lower again, I'm going to look for a very low risk entry to the long side again for just a trade. Keep that in mind. RH, okay, I literally had this on long watch, but just looking for a snapback bounce. I mean, a few sessions ago, this was 36, and now it's down near 26. If you go to the weekly, you'll see this is at all-time lows. Okay. I hate to point out where it was, but in late 2015, this was over 105. Again, that doesn't really matter, but it's still kind of interesting when you're now down here in the 26 range. So this one might get a snapback bounce on Monday. It doesn't cost me anything to have it on a chart. JAGX gapped up on Thursday, rally, but then closed near its lows, and another red day. Sometimes you get a couple red days and then you get a bounce, so that one goes on bounce watch. HMNY. I want to caution you on this one. I like the candlestick setup a lot for a bounce, but I've been trading, I trade every day, so I'm in front of my screens every day, and I watch things trade. And this thing is what I have no better term than to say that is stupid spready, okay? I've actually seen 70-cent spreads on this thing. I don't know if it was Friday or Thursday or whatever, but spreads can get just flat out stupid. So I was really kind of hesitant to even put this on the list, but you know what? It's possible that we get a fairly low-risk setup in it. And I'm looking for a potential long. I kind of think it needs to come in even another day. I mean, this thing ran from like $1 to 17. That's just, that's just a stupid move. But with a few days lower, these were big-time squeezes on an intraday basis. So maybe one more day lower. Maybe on Monday, who knows, you could get a secondary bounce and a nice intraday squeeze. So it goes on watch, but just please remember my words of warning there on how spready that thing can be. It's not something I'm excited to trade, but it's possible that I'll get a setup that I like enough that I can't keep my hands off of it. NAV had the gap up on really big volume on, see, this would have been Tuesday, and kind of tried to follow through on Wednesday, and then right back down a couple days, back down to, a lot of times when you get a gap up, it'll go into a range. So right now it's at the bottom of the range. Other people would say, well, it's going to fill that gap, and it certainly could. But I'm going to watch that one for potential bounce on Monday. BSPM. Remember, I had this on watch for Friday because you had this monster move, and you see these setups a lot on my videos, right? Then you had an inside day on lower volume. A lot of times I say there's a third day play. We had that on Friday, and I'll show you. I called this long, just a 5-minute buy setup here. And you can see, here's the big move, here's the quiet inside day, and here's the opening candle on Friday. So it had a high of 332, lower high on the next candle, and a lower high on the next candle, but a green candle, and a nice narrow range on the, even on the whole day so far, 15 minutes in, this was 332 to 304, so less than 30 cents range, you know, on a stock that moved up huge back here. So I called this on a 5-minute buy setup over the microphone in the chat room, which was 317, low of day stop. There we get the high of day break. It flagged for a little bit and then went, you know, really went crazy from 317 to 470 at one point. That is a monster. I think it made a 40% gain in our favor on my after my call on a very tiny risk. So it's back on watch, although I definitely don't like the topping tail here. But it is back on watch for a potential low-risk long setup again, because it definitely got a big move, big enough move to make me want to watch it again on Monday. And then lastly, and this one's going to seem weird to you, GBSN, especially when you look at that chart. But let's zoom in a little bit. A lot of reverse splits have really kind of messed up this chart. But okay, so this candle back here, this was May 18th, and it went from 171 to almost $4. So you know that's that's a good double in one day. Then you had a lower high here, but the range on this day was 226 to 345. Again, huge percentage range on that one in that day. And then it really just tailed off to nothing. But it did get a volume spike here to 207. Another volume spike here, 202 was the high. And then kind of a quiet day on Friday, but a very, very narrow range, like a dime range. If we go to intraday on Friday, let's go to 15-minute candles. All right, this is kind of showing you Thursday and Friday. And on Thursday, it actually had a big move on an intraday basis before kind of tapering off. Well, there's the high on the opening 15-minute candle on Friday, right at 179. And on Friday afternoon, this thing came up pretty close to where it opened. So nice support right around 170. This one might surprise us and give us a mini squeeze on Monday. I'm not in love with it, but keep it on your radar. It doesn't cost you anything to have it on a chart just in case you get a setup. And I'm going to leave it at that. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hopefully we'll find some nice gap plays on Monday as well. Be careful trading. Always watch your position size. I always tell my members, expect every trade to be a loser. Not to be a pessimist, but to be a realist. If you expect your trade to stop out after you take it, you will at least choose the proper position size expecting a stop out. Most new traders don't even consider that a trade might go against them, so they trade way bigger than they should. Then when it goes against them, they end up with that deer in the headlight look on their face, and one trade to get away from you can put an end to your trading career. So you have to be literally vigilant 100% of the time as a trader, and that's not very easy to do. So do your best to play defense first always, all right? Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you Monday.